Stay together.
Something playing tricks with us?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2014 found footage horror film Blackwater Vampire. The film is written and directed by Ivan Trammell and it stars Danielle Lazo, Andrea Monnier, Anthony Fanelli and Robin Stephan, as well as Bill Oberst Jr., who you may recognise from things like Three from Hell. Now, the film is set in 2012, I think. A very traditional found footage type story. There's like this small American town. There's been a series of murders over a few decades. There is a person who has been committed for these crimes and sent to prison called Raymond Banks. And it's believed by many that he is the person responsible for all these killings. However, there is evidence to suggest otherwise. So this documentary film crew heads out there to interview the locals and investigate the scenes of the crimes to try and hopefully uncover the truth. What they find is something far more sinister. Right, what are my thoughts on the Blackwater Vampire? Well, this is a found footage film I hadn't heard of before. I saw Leo at Geek Legion of Doom review this one over at his channel a couple of weeks ago. He gave it a fairly favourable score, which immediately gets my interest up because I'm a big fan of found footage. And while I don't think Leo dislikes found footage, I don't think it's right up there with his favourite genre in regards to horror anyway. He quite liked this one, so I definitely put it on my watch list and I've checked it out now. And I have to say, while this one in many ways works within the very strict boundaries of found footage and doesn't do anything new or creative, it is certainly what I would describe as an effective found footage film that I quite enjoyed, if I'm being honest. I don't think it elevated itself to greatness or anything like that. I do think there was potential there for this to kind of elevate itself to something a bit better than what it is, but they don't actually manage to do that. Now, the setup is, for me, in fact, most of the film for me reminded me massively of the Blair Witch Project. The structure, you know, there's this. While the Blair Witch Project has got this spirit of this witch in these woods that they go and investigate and interview the locals and this kind of stuff. This story, rather than being a witch, it's a vampire. But essentially, everything else, the structure, even the beats of the film are very, very similar to Blair Witch Project. Like I say, they go out, they talk to camera, set up the story, interview many of the locals, and then head out to the location, very much like Blair Witch. They get to the location, and they camp each night, and each night things get progressively worse. Very much like Blair Witch Project. During the day, there's a lot of bickering between the crew. They keep getting lost, and at one point, I think they even lose the map. I mean, that very much like Blair Witch. So for at least 75% of this film, the structure is almost identical. And in actual fact, I don't want to use the word rip off, but they definitely follow the beat of the Blair Witch Project here. With the almost attitude of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which I get with found footage films. I honestly think that if you're going to make an effective found footage film, I think there's certain beats you do need to hit when you're doing it. And this one was really, really very aware of that, of how to kind of draw an audience in. And it's effective, there is no doubt. Watching a found footage film like this, you're camping out in the woods, it's dark, and then you hear these guttural screams in the night, you're going to shit yourself. You know what I mean? It's going to be scary watching it because you can sense the fear and panic in the actors almost, you know what I mean? And I do think the cast here do a good job of projecting that anxiety and fear, not only of the things escalating as the night goes on, but also like the stress that it's causing during the day because they keep going in circles and they keep getting lost and they keep bickering. And then very much like Blair Witch again, like members of the crew that go out with them, it's 4 of them, I believe, one at a time they go missing. Very much like Blair Witch, you know, that's what happens in Blair Witch. What each night or each day, one of them kind of goes missing. So it kind of whittles them down more and more and more. And this film follows that blueprint exactly the same. So I did think it was an effective film in regards to generating tension with the audience. I mean, the screams that you were hearing in the night from essentially the creature, the vampire, were very effective. And then as each night goes on, you start getting glimpses of it in the dark, and bloody hell, it looks effective as well. And they filmed it smartly, for the most part, in a sense of when you see it, it's only fleetingly, but it's very, very effective what you see. And I do think it looks a pretty effective design, and the effects are pretty decent for this creature. I think there's one or two shots of it in the day, which I didn't really understand. I mean, A, it didn't look very good, and B, it's a vampire. I mean, and I know, it might be following a different law here, but it didn't make a lot of sense. And then it kind of leans into like a local conspiracy or a cover-up. Are the locals involved? And then it goes down this really odd route, I think, near the end. And I think the ending for me didn't really do it for me at all. It gets a bit odd. Like I say, the locals start getting involved, and then there's another little storyline with one of the crew members that I don't want to spoil it, but I just didn't think it worked, that storyline, and then it kind of ends on this kind of weird note for me. So I thought the last 10 minutes of the film kind of didn't ruin the film, but I thought I didn't appreciate the way it went, but I thought the rest of the film were fairly effective. So I do think there was potential here for this one to score higher than the one I'm going to give it, which is 6 out of 10. But I do think, like I say, they maybe copied arguably the Blair Witch a little bit too much, and the ending gets a little bit odd, and I don't think the ending necessarily worked for me for the most part. But it's certainly worth checking out. If you're a fan of found footage, this is definitely worth checking out. There are certainly worse ones out there, and I thought this was pretty decent. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.